Ladies and gentlemen,
we're talking Aztecs.
So let's get the best source.
Key to our success, though, is the defense and the rebounding.
This is the Brian Dutcher Show. Get the latest info about the Scarlet and Black as we talk to the man at the top.
You got to have an 8, 9, 10-man rotation because it's a hard conference.
The Brian Dutcher Show is sponsored by ShopAztecs.com. ShopAztecs.com is your official store for team apparel. Visit ShopAztecs.com for the latest Sdsu gear and Kaiser Permanente for all that is San Diego for all that is you. Now, it's the Brian Dutcher Show.
The Brian Dutcher Show, San Diego Sports 760, Aztecs and Utah State coming up on Saturday at 5 o'clock Pacific, 6 Mountain. Pregame coverage begins at 4. Stretch run. And we're joined right now by the head coach at San Diego State, Brian Dutcher, back with us. If you have a question, and I know people have been getting them in here in the final hour of our show, you can text us. We'll get to all your questions. 70470. Start it with the word team. Again, 70470. Start it with the word team. Dutch, it's always great to catch up. You guys have won 3 straight. You've won 7 of 8. You're heading for Logan. And it's kind of hard to believe that we're at this point in the season, isn't it? 5 regular season home games to go. That's it.
Yeah, 5 to go. It's the stretch run, and we got to find a way to play our best basketball.
What do you tell your team? Because I'm thinking about your team, and you touched on this with the media today. Not a lot of your players have played in Logan. So what do you tell your team? Life on the road is tough in the Mountain West. What do you tell them about this weekend?
That it's going to be hostile, it's going to be personal, and they have to find a way to focus on basketball and not focus on all the stuff that's happening in the crowd.
Also, when you go back to the way the first game played out, right, the game all the way back in December, it feels like forever ago. You built a lead, they came back. You built another lead there late. They came back and they won the game. It happens. We've been around basketball enough to know that you can win games like that. You can lose games like that. Like, how much of the focus is about the first game, but how do you make sure that, you know, they're not making it solely about the first game when they take the floor this weekend?
No, they know what they're in store for against the team. They don't know what the environment's going to be like. I think the only one to really play in there was Bird.
Right.
And so, you know, we have to deal with the environment. We have to deal with the talent that Utah State has, a dynamic offensive team. And then we have to deal with the matchup zone, the switching to man, and find ways to be productive at the offensive end. And none of it will be easy. But if we want to be the team we want to be, we have to find a way to go in there and play our best basketball.
What are the keys to success against the type of zone that they play?
High post touches. Any zone can't survive high post touches. Timely ball screens where we ball screen and create space for ourselves to attack. And then rebounding. You got to rebound against the zone. I think the key to the game, though, will be taking care of the ball. They're a dynamic running team. And if we turn the ball over and they get out on the break, they're going to be hard to deal with.
You know, you by and large, I mean, you've had these games before where you've kind of told your team at the break, right? Like, I'm only giving you another 2 or 3 turnovers, right? If we got 2 or 3 in the second half, we can win this game. But if it's 5, 6, 7, we're not going to win this game. I mean, you've had a lot of halves like that, even some games like that this year. I mean, you've had halves where you've only turned it over 1 or 2 times. That probably includes the first half against Fresno State the other night.
Yeah, I told them we got to flip our turnovers. We come in at halftime, we have 12 turnovers. I tell you, we can only have 3 in the second half. Why don't we have 3 in the first half and take care of the ball? And then we had 2 in the first half, and of course they did what I didn't want to do, turn it over 8 times the second half.
Right.
So we have to find a way to take care of the ball against a team that creates a lot of turnovers. They dig the ball out. They attack the dribble drive as well as any team in the country.
So I remember we touched on this before the first meeting of the year against Utah State, and you said, you know, a way to be good again, even with a coaching turnover, is to retain talent and to stay old, and they've been able to do that, right? I mean, Ian Martinez stayed. Mason Folslev stayed. They retained a lot of their players from a year ago. That's clearly been pivotal to their success, right? Some of their best players were here a year ago.
Absolutely. They retained players that know what it is to win a regular season championship, because that's what they did last year.
Mm-hmm.
2 starters off the conference championship team. And they got other guys that were a part of that, Templin and the big fellow 7-footer returns. And They've got returning players from a conference championship team. So they know what it is to win. They know what price it is to win. And so they're a very competitive, talented, hard-nosed team.
Brian Dutcher Show here on San Diego Sports 760. You can text us with your questions, 70470. Start it with the word team. Did your team show you something this past week at home with the manner in which they defeated Boise State and the manner in which they played against Fresno State?
Yeah, Boise State was obviously a big game. We know how talented they are. They showed that yesterday against New Mexico when they built a 20-point lead against the Lobos and ended up winning by, 9, 10 points. So we knew what that was going to be, and we responded well. Our defense held them to 47 points, and our offense scored at a high rate, 54% from the field, something like that. And then to bounce back against Fresno, which in all likelihood was going to be a trap game, the game after you play well and the game before Utah State, but we didn't let that happen. We came out, we played aggressively at both ends of the floor against zone that we hadn't seen a lot of all year, and did a good job shooting in the 50s again and playing really good defense.
When you watch your team on offense right now and you see the continued development, we all have been watching the way Nick Boyd has played. We've seen the development of Magoon Gwath and others. What are you seeing on offense that has pleased you with the way you've played the last couple of games?
We're playing more together. I think we had 20 assists against Fresno, which I like to see, and share the ball, take better shots, better shot selection, and play better team basketball. And we've done that the last couple of games.
So we're going through this true round robin where it's the 20 league games for the first time ever in the Mountain West. I think we probably touched on this last week, but I look at this league and it's up and down the league, right? I mean, every single game. I remember you said going into Fresno State, you were very concerned about what they had shown on film, the way they had been playing recently. They had some close losses recently. They've been playing well on defense as well. I mean, it might not be last year in terms of 6 teams, right? 6 teams in the NCAA tournament's a lot, but it feels to me like this league has been very good in 2025.
Yeah, I think the talent's equal to last year. That doesn't mean you get the same number of teams in. You have to build non-conference resumes. But I would say the upper half of this league and then the bottom being so competitive that the league is probably better this year than it was a year ago, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, exactly. From 1 through 11. Yeah, it's a very good point. I mean, it's just you look at some of these teams, you say, oh, man, San Jose State has been able to do this, or Fresno State or Wyoming or whomever. All right, let's get to this text line, 70470. Start it with the word team. Again, 70470. Start it with the word team. 619 says, Dutch, it feels as though this season has had a few more ebbs and flows than the past couple, but has had some convincing and close wins lately. You always stress playing your best basketball in February and into tournament time. How do you feel about your team's current play moving towards these next couple of weeks?
I mean, we're playing good basketball right now, but the next 2 games are against the top 2 teams in the league. So you can play well and still not win, or you can play well and find a way to win. So we're going to see what that is over the next 2. They're going to be challenging. We have our fate in our own hands. We can play ourselves into the NCAA tournament, but we have to play ourselves in. So we have to find a way to play our best basketball over these last 5 games.
All right, 70470. Start it with the word team. Do you feel as if I saw like the texter say there's ebbs and flows, but don't all seasons, Dutch, and correct me if I'm wrong, don't they all have different types of like adversity and highs and lows? Again, maybe not. I mean, you had a 30-2 team. You've had some brilliant teams at Michigan and San Diego State, but don't most seasons have kind of moments where you go one way or another?
Yeah, absolutely. Last year we played in the Sweet 16, yet in conference our record was 11-7, I believe.
Right.
So right now we're 11-4, and we're playing 2 extra conference games this year. So we've done what we needed to do. Now we have to play our best basketball down the stretch and close this season out playing our best basketball.
Again, 5 regular season games remaining, including Saturday in Logan, then next Tuesday back here against New Mexico. This is from the 858, who writes, there was a notion that junior college transfers would take a half season to get comfortable. Is it the same, or is the same true for portal transfers? He writes, Boyd, Jared Coleman-Jones, and McKinney III really seem to be comfortable and hitting their stride. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't just come in and as much as you want them to be running on the same page when you've got 5 new starters, new players to the program, it takes a while. And so we were able to win close games when we weren't at our best, but we found ways to win. And I've always said this about this team. They're gritty and tough, and so they don't give in. They keep fighting until they find a way to win. And that's what we've done by and large this season. even when we're not at our best, we're tough enough to put that streak together at the end of the game to find ways to win close games.
Would it be too early, Dutch? Is this something more for the end of the season to know the true impact of kind of that halftime against San Jose State trailing by 17? I mean, we know the way your team has played over the last week, but is it too early to know the true impact of that very moment? We have to wait and see this thing through?
Yeah, I mean, is it that game? Is it making a length of the floor layup against Air Force?
Right.
Is it coming from 20 down against Utah State or against San Jose and Wyoming at home, 18 and 20-point runs? There's all sorts of moments this year. We've won close games, and we've gutted it out, and we put ourselves in a position to fight our way into the NCAA tournament. Now we got to find a way to do that.
Right, one more text is rolled in here, and then we'll take our first break of the Brian Dutcher Show. 70470, start it with the word team. 858 wants to know if Michael Cage spoke to the team before the game. Well, he was there the other night, right?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see Michael.
Okay.
You know, I visited with him in the past. He's a great Aztec. And whenever I see Michael, I think this guy could still play. He's in phenomenal shape.
Right.
So I didn't get a chance to see Michael, but one of the great Aztecs. But no, he did not have a chance to talk with the team.
I know Michael Cage is obviously going back a while, but what is the relationship like for you and a coach with someone? Again, Michael Cage obviously is an Aztec and an Aztec for life. What's it like when you've coached someone and then they come back? I mean, that's got to be almost like you haven't skipped a beat even as time passes, right?
Yeah. Now, some of these guys coming back are older now. We've been here 25 years.
Right.
So they're in their late 40s, some of them, that we were able to coach here at San Diego State. Left here at 23, and 25 years later, they're coming back. So these are grown men with families now, and they all look back fondly on their years at San Diego State, and they're so proud of this program and this university that they represented when they were a part of it.
It's funny. The other night, I forget what you said post-game with me, but it was hilarious about some of the former players. But you see some of the players on the floor that are being recognized, and like you said, it's been maybe 20 or 25 years since they played. I'm like, these guys play basketball? Like, somebody's right. They don't necessarily always look the part 20 or 25 years later, right?
No, some of them look like a lineman from a football team, but some of them still look in incredible shape. But that's all of us. I wish I looked like I did when I was in college, but I don't. So, but they're all great people. They've all valued their San Diego State experience, and that's what's most important to me.
You've had some just great, obviously not just basketball players, but obviously graduated so many great people through the program over the years. And it's just cool when you look up. I mean, there's been those moments. I remember maybe in Houston a couple years ago, there's all these Aztec for life players. You just look up and like Malachi Flynn is there and Jordan like everyone just wants to be a part of it. They're just so thrilled with where the program, has been and where it's heading as well. We're going to continue the conversation.
Awesomeness, smaller size. I think I've got just the thing.
Pepsi Mini Can. Mini Can, big taste.
It's the Brian Dutcher Show on the home of San Diego State, San Diego Sports 760.
All right, the Brian Dutcher Show here on 760. Again, the Aztecs have a huge test on Saturday at 5 o'clock Pacific, 6 Mountain in Logan, Utah at Elevation against the Aggies. Our pregame coverage begins at 4. Ted Leitner on the call at 5. Again, if you have a question, you can text us, 70470, started with the word team. Dutch, I saw that Mark Ziegler just wrote something on Reese. I know we've asked you about Reese a lot. Mark wrote about Reese getting clearance. He's got him quoted saying, I'm going to redshirt this year and come back next year. He then writes, come back to San Diego State, and Reese says yes. So is that your expectation that Reese will redshirt now for 2025 and hopefully return to your program for 25-26?
That's what it looks like, and I'm ecstatic about it.
Yeah, it's huge.
I mean, you start next year's team with a mature, healthy Reese Waters coming back, then the sky's the limit. So we're excited about that. And we're most excited that Reese is healthy. The final scan came back. He's completely healed. And now we get him back into shape and start working toward next year. I mean, obviously, it would be incredible if we could have had him this year. But that's not going to happen. To not have the ability to play a full year wouldn't make sense. And so we're ecstatic that Reese, first and foremost, is healthy. And secondly, that he's going to be an Aztec next year again.
Yeah, that really is incredible. I mean, You think about just you deal with athletes for your living, and just the highs and lows of being an athlete. It's one thing just to go through a season and the rigors of it, but another thing to deal with injury, which is a part of sport, whether it's basketball, football, or whatever it is. That's got to be challenging at times, right, Dutch, to deal with these student athletes when they're not just going through struggles on the floor, but dealing with something that keeps them off the floor.
Yeah, I mean, Reese was our first team all-conference player returning preseason. And we were counting on him. And due to anything beyond any of our control, he had the broken foot, and it took a while to heal. And there's no sense to come back until it's healed, and it took a while. So we're just grateful that it healed. Sometimes those foot injuries never come back. But the fact it's completely healed and that we're going to get a fresh start with him next year is incredibly important to all of us, to the Aztecs, to Reese, and to our future. So nothing but great news in that regard, and we're thankful and hopeful that next year with Reese, we're going to take the next step.
What is it? What kind of impact do you think it will have on Reese having had this experience? He's watched it from the sidelines, but he's been there each and every day. He's traveled with you. He's been a part of this team. Will this be beneficial? Not, of course, nobody wants to suffer an injury, but having now gone through it, what type of benefits could this mean for Reese as he progresses into next year?
Yeah, you sit like a coach and you watch the game and you see the ebb and the flow and what works and what doesn't work and what's important to being a great player. And Reese has done that. He's also been a tremendous mentor to the freshmen in the program, spending time with all of them, talking to them about what it takes to be a good player and what he's experienced. And so even though Reese was not on the floor contributing, he contributed greatly this season from the bench and as a mentor to our young players.
You wanted him out of high school, is that correct? Did you recruit Reese Waters out of high school?
100%, yeah. Okay. He visited here, and we wanted him desperately out of high school, and he chose USC, which is not a surprise. A great school, great coaches, but when it didn't work out the way he wanted exactly, he came back to us, and we're grateful he's been a part of it. And I think people can just look back last year at Gonzaga, Cal in the neutral. Reese is the best player on the floor. And so to get him another year, to get that kind of talent and potential for next year is nothing but great for the Aztecs.
You have a job in which you always have to have one eye towards the future. You're coaching in a very important game Saturday, and everything is ahead of this team right now in the middle of February, but you always have one eye towards the future. And I asked you about this last week, but as you look to 25-26, you touched on this last week as well, the importance of retaining a roster and adding to it. It can't be overstated, the importance of your collective, right? The Mesa Foundation and what it means to the now and the future of San Diego State men's basketball, women's as well, but specifically for your program. I mean, for our listeners, the Mesa Foundation is the way that this team is going to potentially be retained moving forward, right?
Yeah, John, in the past, we have faith in Dutcher and the assistants that they're going to put a great team together. They've done it before. They're really good at it. Well, now there's a new element. There's the financial element to it, and I need help. I can't put the money in. I need help putting money into the program, making an investment in Aztec basketball to assure that we're going to stay relevant on a national stage. Now, we're not going to have the money of other programs, but we can't do it for free. It's not going to happen that way. So if you're invested in Aztec basketball, Aztec athletics, it comes at a price. And it doesn't have to be you have to give everything, but you have to give something for us to remain relevant.
So mesa-aztecs.org, and you can make a monthly contribution, support San Diego State men's and women's basketball, their student athletes as well at mesa-aztecs.org. I heard you today with Jeff Goodman, Rob Doster, talking about, where college athletics is. And I mean, this is a type of conversation that you're now having with players earlier, right? Like you don't wait until the end of a season because the season ends and all of a sudden portals are open and freedom of movement, players can choose their next stop. So these are conversations, even though you're in the season, these are conversations you're having with players now about their futures?
Absolutely. And, in the past, you would wait till the end of the year and discuss their futures. But right now, if I wait till the end of the year and I've got 10 or 12 guys I'm trying to talk to and the portal opens and they're hearing from people how much money's at stake, how much they're willing to invest in them, and I've got to have some of those conversations now. As much as I want to wait I'm head coach and I'm GM.
Mm-hmm.
So we are trying to keep this team intact. We are trying to keep our base here because it's a wonderful base. And as much as we're winning this year, 6 of our top 10 are freshmen and sophomores. I want to retain those players. I want to bring them back to the program, and we have to invest in them for that to happen. So we need the public, we need Aztec fans and supporters to help us. And, I never used to ask for that. I never used to have to, but now I have to. It's part of my job. It's part of my pledge to Aztec basketball. I'm going to keep us relevant and playing on a national stage, and it only comes when I get support from Aztec fans and people that want to invest in this team. Like I said, we're not leaving town. We're not going anywhere. We're here. So invest in us, help us.
That's well said. Mesa-Aztecs.org. I also think there's probably this false assumption that, everything's fine. They ended up in this remarkable event, this Players Era Festival, which of course has been beneficial for your program and will allow your student athletes to earn in the NIL space. But that's not the entirety of it. There's other programs in the Players Era Festival. There's other programs out there with collectives. So the Players Era is beneficial, right, Dutch? But it's not the entire piece of the pie.
No, we need people to help invest in the program, John. It's part of it, and that will keep us relevant on a national stage. But to retain an entire roster, we have to continue to raise money for people to think it's important. And like I said, we're not just out there. We're doing community service. San Diego is important to us. The city is San Diego. So whether it's working blood drives, working the food bank, our players are donating their own money to the food bank. And so we're trying to make a difference in this city, whether it's the ALS walk, whether it's basketball camps for underserved youth. We're trying to make a difference in the city. So you're investing in us, but we're investing in the city because we think it's important.
Mesa-Aztecs.org to contribute and help. 2 more before you go, Dutch, off the text line. 858 wants to know, curious if there are any noticeable impacts in recruiting with going to the Pac-12. Will your conference affiliation change anything for what you and your staff are doing day in, day out?
I'll say it when we were in the Mountain West. We are a brand to ourselves. I don't care what league we're in. We are San Diego State, and we are nationally relevant. So whether it's the Mountain West or the Pac-12, it doesn't matter. We are San Diego State, and we are relevant.
And then finally, this is from BL from Bend. Do you intentionally save wrinkles in the offense or defense for this time of year as teams start to get extra familiar with one another, or do you take it one game at a time in terms of game planning?
I've watched countless games of Utah State. I've seen what other people have done. I've tweaked some of what we do, and every game is different. We put in a play specifically for Fresno. We ran it almost the entire game, and it worked. So we're not just saying this is what we do, stop it. We're watching what works, and we're invested in trying to play our best basketball every time we step on the floor.
Dutch, always appreciate the time. We know it's busy. Huge night coming up Saturday in Logan. We'll catch up with you then. Thank you for doing it. Safe travels, and then we'll catch up again when you get back home next week.
Yep, John, and let's get that building packed for New Mexico. The leading team in the conference coming to us Tuesday night. Let's fill the AHAS, and let's give them a show.
No doubt about it. Well said. Thank you, Dutch. Brian Dutcher, head coach of the Aztecs. That's a huge game Tuesday night. Obviously, at Viejas Arena, the conference leader right now in the regular season standings, the University of New Mexico. If tickets are available, they're at goaztecs.com. Get there early and be loud for, again, another showdown in the league like this weekend in Logan, Utah.